G'day, Jason Belmonte here, and we are about to watch the player's perspective from the 2019 Tournament of Champions, where I play EJ Tackett in my attempt to equal the all-time record for PBA majors. And obviously it was the very first tournament in which the $1 million prize was up for grabs for a 300. So EJ had just come off a couple of pretty good games. He was bowling really well. And, you know, I've said this many a time, and I'll say it one more time for the record. I consider EJ to probably be my biggest rival on tour. I think his game has evolved tremendously over time. And he's the guy that seems to push me to be better more than anyone else, ever. So to be able to play against him in the final, we'd played each other in the finals quite a few times. I think this might have been our 7th appearance in title matches, or 6th or 7th. So it's you know, it's always nice to see a friendly face, but you also know that you're going to get a really hard game. So I'm using a pitch black, and the goal all week at this particular bowling center was to keep it pretty much in front of you. You didn't want to give the ball away from the pocket too much. I had a really nice look with that pitch black all week, so I decided to use it again for the title match. And in my practice shots, it looked great, so I thought I would just continue to use it, and just, you know, maybe cheat it a little left if it started to overhook. As long as I got the ball down the lane where I wanted it, it had a really good chance to, you know, to strike. So caught a little bit of a break there. I missed it in at the arrows, and was fortunate enough to trip that 4-pin. I mean, probably most people would disagree with this, but this is just my personal feeling. I feel like I don't trip a lot of 4-pins. So when I saw that one fall, I got a little excited. But I'm sure if you could get other players in here, they would probably disagree with me and call me a liar. So EJ's playing a very, you know, kind of similar shape. He's getting his ball to roll heavy end over end, not creating a whole lot of shape, using reactive though. And that was another reason to use urethane, knowing that as the game was going on, more and more oil was going to be down lane, and it can really play havoc with an opponent's carry. And that's what had happened all week. You know, after a couple of games with a few guys using urethane, you'd see the reactive ball struggle to go through the pin. So I thought if I can just get off to a really good start, hopefully the lanes would transition just enough where EJ's carry would start to suffer. And the idea is, you know, you try to overcorrect a urethane transition, and that's when you throw your errant shot. So I'm hoping, you know, that EJ doesn't catch a light and start stringing strikes, because I want him to start moving around a little bit. I want him to throw that shot that, you know, unexpectedly hooks more or doesn't hook, and, you know, he leaves the open frame. And you can see that ball just went so much straighter down lane. And, you know, I believe that's because, you know, of the urethane that had been played on that lane, on that pair prior to this match, and the extra use of my urethane ball going down. You know, it doesn't take much on the Pro Tour. I mean, it's hard, I guess, for people who play league to truly understand and to see a ball, you know, look and feel pretty good off your hand and then just never hook down lane. When, you know, I guess in league you can get away with a shot like that. There's a lot more hook across the lane, so you don't necessarily see that crazy transition. But on tour, I mean, it just takes a board or two of transition, and you go from, you know, high flush to missed the head pin. So with EJ not doubling, you know, I really wanted to make sure that these next 2 frames are really good, especially after catching a break in the second. You want to really capitalize on any breaks that you get, and you know, throwing that shot high flush obviously makes you feel pretty good. You feel very relaxed. You got 3 in a row. You feel like you got a pretty good roll going. Just got to continue the momentum and make it more and more harder, make it harder for your opponent to feel like, you know, he has a chance in this match, even from such an early stage as the third frame. 7-pin could have stood, would have been a bit dirty about that, but fell. Oh, there you go. This was my 5th time. So this was the 6th time that I had played EJ for a title match. More than anyone else in my career playing for a title match. And there's Rob with the famous ham bone quote. So right now, I'm 1/3 the way of winning $1 million for a 300 game. I don't actually remember if I was ever thinking about it, but I do know when I stopped thinking about it, and you'll see that the next time I step up on the lanes.
Tackett down 31. Started strong, and then it's been a pair of 9 spares. Back on the strike train.
I think that's one of EJ's strengths that he's really developed into his game, is having the touch to play the lanes a little straighter, you know, and change his hand position so he can still have a 500 RPM rev rate, but you look at that, he's throwing it over the 13th board and it's going out to, I think that was a 6.9 board, so let's say 7th board. So we're talking a pretty direct line for somebody with a 500 RPM. And that's all because of the way that he lets the ball go, where his hand position at the release point. And when EJ first came out on tour, he was pretty much a one-trick pony. You know, when he did really well, he was doing his thing. But when his thing wasn't working, you know, he wasn't really a factor. And then he started changing some things, and then he became a factor every week.
Well, it's better than the 7-10.
Was it last game or the game before you came at me with the...
That was a pretty unlucky break. I think he thought that was pretty good off his hand. The ball just went a fraction too long. Probably gave it a little bit more room too. And the angle going through the pins, the 5-pin, you know, goes behind the 7, and you know, leaves it there. So no doubles for him after 5 frames. And again, I'm thinking, right, let's get up here and just ace these next 2. And now that forces EJ into a position where he probably thinks, I have to strike out now in order to have a chance.
Working off a ham bone as he gets set to close out the 5th.
And this is one of my all-time favorite Rob Stone quotes after this ball goes down the lane.
With so much on the line, history, possible $1 million.
Something I've never heard a commentator say, ever, until this shot.
Come on, 10-pin! Jerk.
He calls it a jerk. I love it. So at that particular moment, I remember thinking, well, there goes $1 million. And it was the first time that I kind of felt like this loss of focus. You know, I wasn't thinking, I don't remember thinking about the million, but I do remember thinking to myself, well, there goes $1 million. You know, and you've got that thought in your head on the approach. You don't take your time. You're still thinking, I can't believe that shot didn't strike. I could still be on a run here for $1 million. And then you just do the ultimate, you know, failure, and it's the easy pin whiff. And what makes it even more disappointing is, you know, I feel like I'm a player that, you know, I pride myself on spare shooting. You know, if I ever miss more than, you know, a handful, like 2 or 3 easy spares for an entire tournament, you know, I'm really upset with myself. So you've got to try to find a way to let it go. You've only got 5 frames left in this match. You're still ahead in the game. You've got to let that spare go. You've got to get back on the rhythm, get back to focus, and you know, that 6th frame was probably the best frame of the game.
What he has done, what he has accomplished, how he brought the world into two-handed bowling. I remember you and I did his first telecast.
Yep.
And we're like, what, Rob, we've got this crazy
Still
guy
bothers
from
me. I'm looking at that 9
that
miss
bowls
right
for
now on
two
the
hands.
screen,
Talking
and
about
like
him.
I'm actually
Now,
getting a bit upset about
it's
it.
part
I'm
of
like,
our-
I can't believe I did that.
bowling lexicon.
Yeah, his tour rep, Tim Mack, actually discovered him in Australia when he was 16. Oh, no.
How about that? It almost popped back up and stood.
There was a part of me that
He
thought,
was trying to stand back up
if that stands up,
spot. But yeah, Tim Mack,
how is he going to react? I know how I was going to react,
Australia made a phone
but
call
I was
back in the
curious to
States
see
and
what
said,
would happen to EJ. I mean, he's bowled some really great shots this game,
one of the owners
and
of
look how
the Great
close that is
Manufacturers
from standing up.
You
He's
gotta
bowled
see
some
this
really
kid
good
from
shots that
Australia.
haven't struck,
Like it.
and then
gotta be insane.
to see that
One of those
stand
baseball scouts
would have
going down
been,
to the Dominican or
exactly.
Cuba,
I mean,
like,
it would
"Oh,
have
got this guy.
been comical
Throw heat.
to
You
see what
gotta
would have
see him. We
happened.
gotta sign him.
He wouldn't have found it funny. I would have found it
He did
funny.
that one, so he gets a spare in the 6th.
So we're coming into the back half of the game, and you know, EJ still hasn't doubled,
See how Tackett got into
and
the title match.
you know, I've missed the spare, but I feel pretty confident at this point. You know, when you're watching your opponent really struggle to get 2 strikes in a row, the confidence of, well, will he throw more than 2? Obviously,
Tackett's not out of
as a
this.
player watching your opponent, you have to feel more confident that it's unlikely he's going to throw, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row from here.
He likes it.
So, and there's another really odd hit,
Juice in the mailbag.
which again just makes me smile a little bit more on the inside, because you're like, wow, those are 2 really good shots that he just threw, and you know, one left a 4-pin, almost a split, and then the next one is a 4-10 for a moment, and then the 4-pin gets kicked out for just another 10-pin. And you know EJ's thinking to himself, no, I don't know what I've got to do right now. I've thrown some really great shots this game, and I feel like the pins are weighing, you know, twice as much. This was actually one of the, I think maybe the first major championship that we ever had using the clutch light projection, the display of the board that you're hitting on the lane. And that was actually kind of a bit weird to get, it took a bit of time to get used to, because you were so focused on a target, and then you would see this line follow your ball. You would almost sometimes get distracted watching the line and not watch your ball go down the lane. It was pretty tricky.
How big is that break?
So I remember throwing that, and at the time, it felt like a good shot. Upon replay, you know, I think my launch angle was, you know, just a little off, and it appeared to hook more, but I think that was just a poor executed frame. But at the time, you know, I didn't think it was that bad. So I make a move on that lane the very next time that I'm on that lane, because I thought, wow, that ball really overhooked. I probably need to move a few left after that. And that's where it can get a little tricky with urethane, because the further and further left that you move, or the inside part of the lane with urethane, the harder it is to get those corner pins out. So I knew the next time I had to go bowl on that lane, I was going to have to, you know, execute a really good shot to make sure that, you know, I was able to get the ball to go through the pins.
2014 Allen Park, Michigan, the 2014 TOC Belmo held off the big nasty West Malott, won it. Next year, Aussie back at it in Indianapolis, defeated EJ Tackett.
Yeah, the TOC has been a really good tournament to me.
Second consecutive TOC.
You know, this is the 3rd time that I had won it. First against Wes Malott, next against Rhino Page,
Got one left.
and it's just been one of those tournaments where I think it's a lot of games. The lanes typically favour the guys that can curve the ball, the TOC pattern, and I fancy myself to be one of the best in the world to curve it, so I think it kind of really, you know, plays into my comfort zone. But you know, it also plays into a lot of other players' comfort zones, including, you know, this guy's.
227 max now. If he goes off the sheet, that means striking out from the...
So I'm looking at the scoreboard here in my brain. I'm not actually looking at it, but I know the scores, and I'm thinking to myself, EJ now has to double, or at least has to get the strike in the 9th. Anything less than a spare strike is pretty much going to hand me the game at this point. Especially using the urethane ball. You know, I knew worst case scenario, if I execute a really good shot, the ball isn't going to do anything super crazy. So maybe I leave a 10-pin or a 4-pin, and you can convert those. So the goal here now was, watch EJ bowl his 9th frame. If he strikes, I know now all I need to do is stay clean. And that's going to force EJ, well, depending on my count, but that's going to force EJ to have to step up in the 10th. But, if I can get a double somewhere, I have a chance to win the match.
Told us yesterday how disappointed he was when he was unable to make a run here last year. This venue means so much to the bowling community. The history that's been here, the drama that has unfolded inside and outside of these lanes as well. Go back to 91, the bomb threat that took place here.
Great shot.
Yeah, and there's the finesse and the touch. He moves, a board left, maybe 2 boards left with his feet, but keeps his eyes in the same spot. So now the ball has a different trajectory down the lane, and he slows his speed, and you can see how he just created a little bit more angle through the pins by using the friction to the right part of the lane and getting away from where that urethane ball, is going down the lane. A really clever shot, but unfortunately for EJ, if I strike here, which I do, it's a frame or 2 late. And this was one of the games that I think, looking back at the Kegel Specto graph, it was one of the best physically bowled games that I have on TV. It was, I think there was no more than 0.9 of a board. I'm trying to remember. This is off the top of my head, so don't quote me on this, but I think it was something like between 1.1 and 0.9 of a board difference across the entire game. And that's, when you're bowling for a title, if someone tells you, you're never going to miss by by less than a board, you fancy yourself to win the match. So 1 strike here, and it's all over. I absolutely pure that ball, and I'm thinking that is going to go high flush, and 6 pin wraps around the 10. And I remember Randy Peterson coming up to me after this match asking, if I was nervous looking at the 10 pin, knowing that I'd previously missed one. And I said to him, I'd completely forgotten the entire game at that point. I don't remember. I wasn't thinking about it, what I'd done previously. I just knew, make this, and you're a 10-time major champion, equal with Pete Weber and Earl Anthony. And just that thought, a lot of emotion coming out. Yeah, number 10. Well done, me. Letting everyone know they can count. It was plenty advertised prior to that match that it would be number 10. I just wanted to make sure someone in the very back row didn't hear it. To scream at them.
Yep, okay.
And then after this match, I don't know if we're going to see it, but EJ actually says it right here. He had, some of the nicest things to say, and we spoke after the match as well. And I don't want to misquote him, but he says something along the lines of, you're one of the best that I've ever seen, and that moment, equaling the record. One of the things that EJ said is that obviously I would have liked to have beaten you, but it was a pretty special moment to see that and to be on the lanes with you. So, EJ and I have a really nice relationship. We're really good friends. He's a good guy. So, and we see each other a lot, in title matches. So, like I said earlier, he's the guy that pushes me more than anyone else. And as you can see in that match, if not for a few stubborn corner pins here or there, he would have denied my winning of my 10th major. But too bad for him, lucky for me. And that was the 2019 Tournament of Champions. Peace.